Well, hello everyone, my name is Zwiggojr and welcome back to another video. This week we're taking a look at the Pokemon ROM hack Pokemon Storm Silver. And if you've ever heard of Pokemon Renegade Platinum, it's basically the same kind of game but then in Soul Silver. So enhanced Pokemon trainers, you can find every Pokemon in the game up until Generation 4. There is new added story elements as well, which is pretty cool to see, but this game is actually pretty old already. So you've probably heard of it, and if you haven't, well, here you go. But I myself have actually never played this game before, and it looked really interesting. So we're going to be taking a look at the difficulty level and check out how this game actually plays. And while doing so, we're also going to be playing through the game with only Steel-type Pokemon, one of the coolest typings in the game. Also, let me know what your favorite Steel-type Pokemon is. I'm going to be very generic here and say my favorite is Metagross. Also, before we jump right into the video, don't forget to subscribe because only about 26% of the people that watch my videos are subscribed, and if you enjoyed my content, you might as well click that big red button. Also, don't forget to leave a like. Let's try to smash 5,223 likes for this video. Before I forget, this will also be a hardcore Nuzlocke, so the regular hardcore Nuzlocke rules will be applied, and with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into Pokemon Storm Silver with only Steel-type Pokemon. We first start off by naming ourselves Zwiggojr, and then we get to choose the most important thing of the run, our border for our text. I decided to go with the brick one because we will be building an amazing team. We then pick the best Johto starter and also the best HM Pokemon of the 3 Totodile. Pick up the Apricorn box, which we can later turn into nice balls with different colors and stuff. Perhaps we will even make some blue balls. We then meet up with Cynthia, who is also in this game apparently, but she gives you an Eevee. Sadly enough, we're not going to be able to use it unless they bring out a steel form of Eevee called Steelion or something like that. So after talking to Mr. Pokemon and also Professor Oak, we get ourselves an egg, head back to the lab, get arrested, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a cave. And in this cave, we find our first encounter, Bronzong, a Steel Psychic type, which will be very useful throughout the entire game with the utility moves like Calm Mind, Hypnosis, Confuse Ray, and Trick Room. I name it Mordor, head on over to the next patches of grass and capture my second Steel type, Magnemite, which is also part Electric type, so amazing for the first gym. These are also the only 2 encounters we can get before the first gym badge, so let's move on over to the Sprout Tower. After defeating the big bald monk and getting ourselves a water stone, we then escape rope out of there and immediately go to Falkner's gym. I could have started off with Magnemite, but first I have to take out his Pidgeotto because it has Mud Slap, and we don't really want to get hit with that. So the first thing that we do is start off with Bronzong to take out his Dodio with a couple of confusions, and then he brings in his Pidgeotto immediately. Sadly enough, we don't have the Levitate ability on Bronzong, so we can still get hit with Mud Slaps. I first decided to put the Pidgeotto to sleep with Hypnosis. My first one did indeed miss because of the accuracy lowering, but my second one hit. I then brought in Magnemite, went for the metal sound to lower its special defense, and then took it out with a Thunder Shock after that. I did get hit with a Mud Slap, which did about half of my HP, but now we should be good to take out the rest of his team. His Chatot hits me with an Uproar, leaving me with only 7 HP, but then we can take it out with another Thunder Shock. He then brings in Swablu, so I bring in Bronzong again because I don't want to die here, Hypnosis the Swablu, and then try to hit a Confuse Ray on it, but he swaps in Murkrow. So after confusing the Murkrow, I then put it to sleep, but I get hit with a Feint Attack, leaving me with only 7 HP remaining. I bring in Magnemite after putting him to sleep, and then take him out with Thunder Shock. Swablu comes back out again, but it's not asleep anymore because of its ability, so we hit a couple more Thunder Shocks to take it out, while our Magnemite is only left with 7 HP, going into the last Pokemon, Farfetch'd. This thing hits me with an Aerial Ace, doing exactly 3 damage, so we can take another one, leaving our Magnemite with only 1 HP remaining, and then taking out the Farfetch'd and winning our first battle of this run. And it's immediately the closest battle ever. Not looking forward to the rest of this run. And so as we keep continuing on our journey, this man aggressively throws a seed at me, so I counter him by throwing a Pokeball at an Aron. This Aron will be named Bed because at the time of recording this video, it was like 4 AM and I really wanted to go to bed, but I couldn't because I had to finish this. Time to power through and capture even more Pokemon. The next one on the list is Onyx, which we will be able to use once it reaches the Steel form, Steelix. I then did an in-game trade for a Gible against a Beldum, so we're going to be able to use Metang pretty quickly here. With Beldum, we also destroyed Proton, Cacnea, and Zubat with Zen Headbutts and saved all of the Slowpokes. And with all of the criminal stuff out of the way, we move on over to the next gym leader, Buxy. Buxy's leading Pokemon is going to be a Butterfree, so we're going to be leading off with our newly evolved Metang. I take it out with a Zen Headbutt and a Metal Claw, and we're pretty lucky here because my Metal Claw also boosts my Metang's attack. Our Metang is then also going to one-shot his next Pokemon, Beedrill, with Zen Headbutt. But since our Metang reached level 21 and it's a trade Pokemon, it is not going to listen to me anymore. Which is not too great. It ignored my orders a couple of times when its next Pokemon Yanma, and the Yanma even managed to get an Ancient Power boost as well as U-turn out into Scyther. I was only left with 15 HP on my Metang, so I was getting pretty nervous. So I swapped out into Magnemite, but it U-turned out into Heracross immediately. I looked up its moveset and it apparently doesn't have a fighting type move, so I just Sonic Boomed it a couple of times and ultimately finished it off with Thunder Shock. He then brought out a Pokemon that did have a fighting type move, so I swapped in Bronzor to take a Vital Throw. I then once again missed my Hypnosis. Luckily for me, the second one did hit and I finally put the Pinsir to sleep. I then also confused him with Confuse Ray, hit him with a couple of Nightshades, and ultimately took him down. This causes her to swap in Yanma again, which we can now one-shot with Nightshade. It hits me with an Air Cutter but does barely any damage, and we go into our last Pokemon, Scyther. I click Hypnosis again, hopefully we don't miss. Luckily for us, we don't. We did get a U-turn though, which left us with only 2 HP remaining, so we have to swap out here. But not before confusing the Scyther with another Confuse Ray. And then we bring in Bed, the Aron, Metal Claw the Scyther a couple of times. Eventually it wakes up, but it hits itself in its confusion and takes itself down, which means that we have acquired 2 gym badges. We then have no breaks, we immediately jump into the next battle with our rival, which definitely didn't go as smoothly as I wanted it to. The battle does start off pretty good though. My Magnemite can take out Murkrow with only 2 Thunder Shocks, but then he brings in Ghastly. Ghastly goes down the same way as Murkrow with also only 2 Thunder Shocks, and he then brings in Kadabra, who I can take down with my Metang's Metal Claws. Now he has a Bayleaf, which normally would be no problem at all for me to take down, but it has Nature Power, which turns into Earthquake. Yeah, my team is kinda screwed here. I decided to go for a couple of confusions with Metang to try and get this Bayleaf confused, but it didn't really work out too well, and eventually we were only left with 6 HP, so we have to swap in Bronzor. The Bayleaf immediately hits me with an Earthquake, doing more than half of my HP, and I thought my Bronzor was going down here, so I clicked Hypnosis, but it went for Reflect, so we managed to put the Bayleaf to sleep. The Bayleaf then doesn't wake up for the next 2 turns, so I hit 2 more Nightshades and take it down. This could have definitely ended badly, but dumb AI saves the day once again. We then have an odd encounter with Cynthia because she gives us the odd Keystone. We then go to a Pokemon Center in Goldenrod City, and here we do some quizzes, and eventually we get to pick one of the 3 Sinnoh starters. So I go with Piplup, who will eventually evolve into Empoleon, a nice water steel type. We name it after everyone's favorite penguin, Pingu, and this kind of reminded me of a game that I used to play when I was a kid of Pingu, where you had to jump over ice blocks. I'm probably the only person in the world that played this. It's then time to spend some money and go to the department store to pick up some TMs. After this, we go to the 3rd gym and take on Whitney. Whitney starts off with a Lickitung, so I'll be leading with Metang again. I'm going to hit it with 2 Metal Claws and then eventually take it out with a couple more Zen Headbutts since I didn't get any attacking boosts. And I did also get pretty unlucky because Body Slam paralyzed me. She then had a Lopunny with a long pair of legs who kicked me with a couple of jump kicks. Eventually I took it down with a couple more Zen Headbutts, but then she brought in her thick ass cow. So I brought in my little tiny steel dog or whatever Aron is, and I rock smashed the Miltank until it was dead, which took quite a while. But then he brought in Clefable, who I know has Water Pulse, so I brought in Bronzor. I immediately put it to sleep with Hypnosis and set up a couple of Calm Minds. Eventually I'm at +6 in special attack and special defense, and I then take out the Clefable with 2 more extra sensories. She brings in a Standler, who I also take down with 2 more extra sensories, and the final Pokemon, Wigglytuff, also goes down to extra sensory. That's 3 gym badges acquired, which means that we're almost halfway there. Then also find myself a Burmy, which can turn into a Steel Bug type if you level it up down in the city. And this is only one of the 2 Steel Bugs that we're going to be able to capture, because Scyther and Scizor are going to be a lot better. But in order for me to actually level it up down in the city, we have to go down to the sewers. And apparently before you can reach that, you have to battle your other rival, Lyra. Her starting Pokemon is a Nidorina, so our Bronzor is going to deal with that by setting up a lot of Calm Minds and then eventually taking it down with extra sensory. She then swaps in Ninetales, and luckily for me, my Bronzor also has the Heat-proof ability, so Fire-type moves are weakened against me. And we once again spam extra sensory to also take down this Fox. And the last 2 Pokemon, Marill and Roselia, both get one-shotted by extra sensories as well. This actually gives us access to the sewers, which means that we're going to be getting our Trash Cloak Wormadam form, which actually isn't as trash as you may think, because it has pretty high special defense for this point in the game. We waste no more time and go to Ekrutik City to go to the Burn Tower and take on a red-haired boy right here. I decided to lead with Wormadam for no reason at all, just because I didn't really check out his team, and I immediately have to switch out into Magnemite, but as I do so, he actually switches into Magby. This is not really the best matchup, but I try to hit it with a Shockwave anyway. As I just said, not the best matchup, so I have to swap out pretty quickly into Bronzor. We then hit 2 more extra sensories on the Magby to take it out, and that's the biggest threat to my team down. He then brought in Haunter, so I went into Metang, take it out with Zen Headbutt, and that's that. Bayleaf now does not have Earthquake in his arsenal anymore, so we're going to be staying in here. And we just hit it with a couple of Metal Claws and eventually take it out with a Zen Headbutt again. Murkrow comes back out, so I swap in Aron again and take it out with Rock Tomb, and the final Pokemon on his team is Kadabra. I hit a Metal Claw and a Rock Tomb, but I get hit with a Psybeam, and despite it not being very effective on my Aron, it still does a lot of damage, so I have to swap out before I go down. I bring in Bronzor because I know this Kadabra can absolutely not touch me. I hit 1 more extra sensory and win my battle against my rival. We then get access to the local zoo and check out the 3 doggos that are down here. This now means that we get access to Morty's gym, the 4th one, and this is a ghost type gym, so we shouldn't have too many problems with it. Morty leads off with a Duskull at level 27, and I'll be leading with Bronzor and put it to sleep immediately. I didn't start setting up Calm Minds until I'm at +6, but I also get burned in the process, and I also gave my Bronzor an Oranberry to survive more attacks. At +6, I finally take out the Duskull with extra sensory. Misdreavus then comes in, which I can also 2-shot with extra sensory, but now my Bronzor is pretty close to dying. Luckily, the next Pokemon he brings out is Sableye, which I can't touch anyway, so I have to bring in Aron. With a couple of Iron Heads and Rock Tombs, this thing also goes down, but we're only left with 31 HP, so we're not going to be able to take a lot of hits anymore. The next thing he does bring out is his ace Pokemon Gengar, and this is where I bring in my special wall, my Wormadam. I don't take its hits that well, and I hit a Confusion and then a Hidden Power, which is also Psychic type, and my Hidden Power Psychic gets a critical hit on the Gengar, taking it down. We then take down Morty's Shuppet with 2 Mirror Shots and the final Pokemon Houndour with 2 more Hidden Power Psychics. 4 gym badges acquired, we're halfway there. Actually, we're halfway there because we actually have 16 gym badges, but we're only going to be doing 8 in this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you would want me to do the second half of this game in a separate video as well. When the battle is over, my Magnemite also evolves into Magneton, and we then capture ourselves a Scyther because I found myself a Metal Coat which we can use on it, and we then evolve it into Scizor straight away. We then do a little bit of trading, and we get ourselves an Electabuzz and trade that away for Skarmory, another nice flying steel type, which will make us immune to ground type moves. A big weakness that my team will struggle with later on. We also found a second Metal Coat which I used on my Onyx to evolve it into Steelix. Our Aron also reached the appropriate appropriate level to evolve into Lairon. We then go to the top of the lighthouse, and this Ampharos can't stop coughing, so we have to go get him some coughing medicine. Before we do so, we make a pit stop at Ucine and beat him up, because he's stalking a Suicune. We make another pit stop at the local gym, who is led by Chuck, the fighting type gym leader. As you may know, we're using steel types, which are not really good against fighting types, but we do have some psychic and flying types on the team who are definitely going to help us out against them. As we jump into the battle, we see that he's going to be starting off with Primeape at level 34, so we're going to be leading with Bronzong here. I decide to go for an extra sensory, but he sets up a substitute. The turn after, he thunder punches me, but I take him out with another one. Hitmonchan is actually up next, and he's a little bit stubborn, setting up 3 substitutes, so I have to break it 3 times, and then the 4th time my extra sensory eventually takes it down. Next to that is Hariyama, so I put it to sleep at Hypnosis first, set up 2 Calm Minds, and then one-shot it. We then also managed to one-shot the next Pokemon, Breloom, but not before it hits me with a Mach Punch, and then Poliwrath comes out. I know this thing loves to go for Surf from the regular Soul Silver, so I'm guessing it will still go for that, but it puts me to sleep at Hypnosis first. So I have to swap out my Bronzong before it dies. So I decide to swap in Metang, who can hit 1 Zen Headbutt on the Poliwrath, but then I have to swap out into my Wormadam already, because otherwise we're dead. My Wormadam then hits 2 more Psybeams to take it out. Psych, he actually uses a Hyper Potion and gets back up to full health. My Wormadam gets him back down into orange health by using Psybeam a couple more times, but then I have to swap out because I'm only at 7 HP. So I bring in Whopper, aka Scizor, and 2 more slashes finally take down this Poliwrath. So I now only have 1 more Pokemon left, and that's Hitmonlee. For Hitmonlee, I decide to bring in Skarmory. I hit it with 1 Brave Bird, and that's that. Hitmonlee is down, and we have 5 gym badges in our collection. But normally we would just go to Jasmine and go and take on the 6th gym now, but there is a new added storyline here. See, Team Rocket has actually taken over to Safari Zone to get all of the Pokemon there and add them to their team or sell them on the black market. So we, as a good citizen of the Johto region, have to go and stop him, but we're not alone. We actually have a lot of companions here who help you out. Most notably is Riley, who you meet up with in the Pokemon Center together with Archer, and he's also going to help you to fight against Archer and a random Team Rocket grunt. And so that means that this is actually a double battle, and his team is not really built to take on these two, because Archer's Zangoose immediately takes out my Absol. Not my Absol, but Riley's Absol. Riley then brings in Lucario, and our boy Lucario finally takes down Zangoose with Aura Sphere. They then bring in Gyarados, and I decide to swap out my Steelix for Magneton, and I take out that Gyarados with Shockwave. But Gyarados did finish off Lucario, and Riley brought in his Ursaring. And this Ursaring also took down their Scyther with Aerial Ace. It's then Houndoom and Mawile versus us two. This Houndoom then has Fire Blast, which is not that accurate, but if it hits me, I'm basically down and out. So I bring in Lairon, who can take 1, but then if I get hit again, I'm dead. So I bring in Skarmory, and I avoid one of the Fire Blasts. My Skarmory then takes down Houndoom with Drill Picks, and the Ursaring goes down to Fire Blast. I then bring in Steelix to take out the Mawile with Dig, and the final Pokemon is Gramble, but my Steelix can also finish off with 2 more Digs and a Dragon Breath. We have saved the Safari Zone, and that means that we can move on over to the story again and go back to the lighthouse to clean up the Ampharos and then go and clean up the next gym. It's Steel Trainer versus Steel Gym Leader, so we're going to see if our teams are going to line up perfectly, if we're going to be using the same kinds of Pokemon or not. So let's see. It doesn't start off great because she has a Metang as her first Pokemon, and I start off with Scizor because I knew she was going to have Metang. I go for 2 Bug Bites and take down Metang really quickly. Since the next Pokemon is Fortress, I first bring in Magneton to hit it with a Discharge, but then I swap out Magneton to go into Empoleon and finish it off with Surf. She then brings in a Magneton of our own, and since this thing has Magnet Pull, I can't swap out my Empoleon, so I have to hit it with a Surf, and I also get hit with a Thunderbolt, which does a lot of damage to me. Luckily for us, our Surf is strong enough to one-shot the Magneton. She then brings in Steelix, which is very good for us because we can also one-shot that with Surf, and then we have to swap out because she goes into Skarmory. I bring in Desk the Magneton again and discharge the Skarmory to take it out, and the final Pokemon on our team is a Bronzong. I don't really have anything for this Bronzong, so I bring in Scizor and hit 2 X-Scissors, but then she heals it up and puts me to sleep. So I have have to swap out after I get hit with another Psychic. I bring in Metang and pursue the Bronzong about 10 times, and eventually we come out on top because it apparently doesn't have any moves except for Psychic to hurt me with. 6 gym badges acquired, 2 more to go, but before we take on Price we have to do the Lake of Rage first, see a big red shrimp, and then we go do the normal shenanigans down at the Rocket Hideout. Together with Lance we destroy a couple of guys and eventually get out of there unscathed because Team Rocket just isn't that threatening. It's then time for us to talk to Riley, and he gives us an egg with a Riolu in it. So we bike up and down until it eventually hatches. With the hatching process out of the way, we drive back and forth a couple more minutes, and eventually our happiness is high enough so that our Riolu evolves into a Lucario. And this Lucario is actually the perfect Pokemon to take on the next Gym Leader Price because both of its typings are good against his Pokemon. Price here is going to be leading off with an Abomasnow while I lead off with my Scizor. I hit an X-Scissor, but it doesn't quite kill, and we get hit with a Focus Blast doing about half of our health. He then heals up, we hit 2 more X-Scissors, and Obama is no more. He brings in Glalie, which we can one-shot with Metal Claw, and then he brings in his ace Pokemon, Mamoswine. So I decide to go into Skarmory, predicting an Earthquake, but he actually goes for Stone Edge. Luckily for us, we take that pretty well. A couple of Steel Wings later, and the big Mammoth is down. He then goes into Lapras, which I only have 1 Pokemon for to take that thing down, and as Magnus Zone, I go for Discharge, and then a few more Discharges, I get Perish Songed, but I managed to kill it before the Perish Song runs out, and once he sends in its next Pokemon, I swap out to get rid of the Perish Song. Since he brings in Dewgong, I decide to go into Empoleon because I think, we don't really have anything to hit each other with, so we go back and forth with Surfs until I go into Red Health and have to swap in Lucario. I then hit a Force Palm, take down Dewgong, and the final Pokemon on his team is going to be Frostlass. My Lucario can't really hit this Frostlass, so I have to swap in my Metang, Bullet Punch it twice, and win my 7th gym badge. And right after the battle, my Metang immediately evolves into Metagross as well. This means that it's time to get some drip down in the sewers, so we get dressed in a bag of garbage, aka Team Rocket's suit. We slip into the Team Rocket tower without any problems, besides our partner actually ratted us out. So we have to get back at him for that and beat him up down in the basement. He protected himself by throwing out a crow, and I protected myself with an Empoleon. It might be the battle of the birds, but only one Blizzard of mine can take out his. He then brings in Magmar, who apparently had Focus Blast, but since it's Focus Blast, it naturally is going to miss. So my Empoleon is going to come out of that pretty nicely and take it out with Surf. He then swapped in Alakazam and I brought out my Scizor. 1 X-Scissor and that thing was down too. We take out Gengar with my Magnezone's Discharges, and he then brings in Seadra, so I have to swap out here because the Gengar did a little bit too much damage to me. I brought in Metagross, took it out with some Zen Headbutts, then he brought in his last Pokemon Meganium, I Zen Headbutted that thing 2 more times, brought in Skarmory, and finished it off with Drill Peck. This definitely put him in his place, so let's go and save the region. So we go back to the radio tower and we meet up with Archer, and we challenge him to a battle. Normally he has a really bad team, but in this game, it's pretty beefy. It actually starts off with the Zangoose, which we've already seen in the battle together with Riley, and our Lucario can actually take him down with a close combat. He then brings in Machamp, so I go into my Metagross, I take an Earthquake, not too well, and I hit back with a Zen Headbutt to take it out from full health, luckily. For Houndoom, I swapped in my Bronzong because that's the only thing that can really take Fire Blasts. He takes one very well actually, then puts the Houndoom to sleep with Hypnosis, and then I swap in Empoleon to hit a Surf, but because of the sunny day it doesn't quite take it out, and he then goes into Gyarados the turn after. I know this thing is going to go for an Earthquake, so I swap in Skarmory to negate that. I then start drill pecking away at the Gyarados until eventually he's into orange health, he heals up, I get him back into orange health, but then I have to swap out because one more waterfall will kill my big metal bird. Since I was expecting another waterfall, I swapped in Empoleon and tried to go for Blizzard. Luckily for us, the Gyarados didn't go for Earthquake and went for Bounce, so our Blizzard could take it out the next turn. He then brought in Scizor, who set up a Sword Stance, which was pretty scary, but then went for X-Scissor, which was not very effective, and 2 more Surfs of our big Penguin took him down. So he brings in Drapion. I first go into Skarmory to not get hit with Earthquake, then go into Scizor and start X-Scissoring away. Eventually we do win this battle because I only have 9 HP left after a lot of earthquakes, but my X-Scissors are just a little bit stronger. He then brings in his last Pokemon, Houndoom, who is still asleep and hurt. So I go into Empoleon because I would rather get rid of Empoleon than Scizor, and then he stays asleep. I go for Aqua Jet and take down Archer. Normally this would be the end of Team Rocket, but now Giovanni comes along and he wants to once again rejoin Team Rocket. But we're going to make sure he doesn't do that. Giovanni's first Pokemon is going to be his loyal servant, Persian. I'm going to be leading with Lucario again because this is a gauntlet battle and I couldn't switch. I get faked out, but this activates my ability, which gives me +1 in speed. So I set up a Sword Stance the turn after and take out the Persian with Force Palm. The next Pokemon is Ryperior. I close combat him because I know he doesn't have Sturdy and we can one-shot him. We then take out Nidoking and Nidoqueen with our Bone Rush. Kangaskhan with another close combat, and then he swaps in Tauros, so we have to swap out because this thing might still be faster than me. Skarmory is able to Drill Peck away at him for 2 turns, but then a Stone Edge takes me down to red health. I bring in Empoleon, who can surprisingly survive a Double Edge and an Earthquake with 20 HP so that I can finish off the Tauros with 2 more Surfs, which means that we have now won the battle against Giovanni and saved the entire Johto region. So we get ourselves the Silver Wing to get Lugia, which is not a steel type despite being silver, kind of, but this does give us the ability to go up to the 8th gym and challenge Claire. Claire starts off with a Dragonair, so I'll be leading with my Emperor Penguin. Blizzard it, and then it's down and out. For Gyarados, I swap in Skarmory. It is getting pretty scary though, because this Gyarados was able to set up 2 Dragon Dances on me, but 3 of my Drill Pecks are enough to take down the big Water Schneck. For Salamance, I first went into Bronzong. I of course missed my first Hypnosis, then hit my second one. Once the Salamance is asleep, I bring in Empoleon again and finish it off with Blizzard. Another Dragonair means another Blizzard. Sadly enough, we miss our first one, get hit with 2 Outrages, but our second one hits and the Dragonair is down. Altaria then comes out, so I bring in Metagross, but it went for Flamethrower, which did a lot of damage. It didn't do half though, so I went for Zen Headbutt, and because of my Choice Band, this manages to one-shot the Altaria. She now only has 1 Pokemon left, Kingdra. So I go into Lucario to take a Dragon Pulse since it's not very effective, and I then go for Force Palm and manage to paralyze the Kingdra as well. I then go for another Force Palm while I should have just gone for Close Combat to take it out, and the Kingdra manages to then hit a Hydro Pump, so I've only got 9 HP left. I swap in Empoleon again and start strengthening away at it until it eventually goes down, and I win my 8th gym badge. This now brings us to the Dragon's Den because of course Claire doesn't want to give us our gym badge. After answering every question wrong, we still managed to pass somehow. We go to the Kimono Girl's house, beat all of them and their evolutions up, and then go to the Whirl Islands to take on Lugia. And with take on, I really mean take on. We're defeating him with Scizor's Night Slashes. And so now there is only one more thing we have to do before we can take on the Elite Four and Champion, and that is go through Victory Road and take on our rival right at the end. Our rival here starts off with a Honchkrow, and I'll be leading with my Metagross. I can just take it out with a single Meteor Mash because it's boosted by my Choice Band. Magmartor is his next Pokemon, so I bring in Empoleon, which is basically the only thing that can kill fire types. I go for a Surf, but he has Thunderbolt, and he also burns me with Will-O-Wisp. But this one Surf that I used did take it out. My Scizor was able to take down his Meganium with 2 X-Scissors, and I also get hit with a Swords Dance boosted Earthquake, which did hurt quite a lot. For Kingdra, I went into Metagross again, and luckily for us, it missed 2 Hydro Pumps in a row and then went for Yawn, so 2 of my Zen Headbutts could take it out. Since we're going to sleep next turn, I decided to swap out my Metagross for Skarmory once he brought out his Alakazam. I get hit with a Focus Blast and I know I can't take another one, so I go back into Metagross because now I'm not locked into Zen Headbutt anymore. And as I swap in, the Alakazam misses another Focus Blast. This Alakazam and his final Pokemon Gengar are his final 2 Pokemon, and my Metagross can take both of them down with Meteor Mashes. This allows us to go up to the Elite Four and take on Will. which has Psychic type Pokemon, and since we resist that, this should be no problem for us. I'll immediately be leading off with my Scizor, which can easily take out his first Pokemon Jinx with the next Scissor, but not before we get hit with a Focus Blast. It then goes into Slowbro, who apparently has Flamethrower. Don't really know where he shoots his flames from, but I'm going to be going into Empoleon. After some Surfs and Drill Pecks, I eventually almost get him down into red HP, but we've only got 7 HP remaining. I can't be risking my Empoleon like this. I have to swap out into Metagross. I then go for a couple of Meteor Mashes while he heals up and eventually take him out. He then brings in his Lunatone and he goes for Earth Power, leaving me with 6 HP, and I also miss my Meteor Mash. So I go into Skarmory because I thought this thing has no Electric type or Fire type moves. Well, as it turns out, it has Charge Beam, which doesn't do that much, but still. Why does a Lunatone have Charge Beam? A couple of my Skarmory Steel Wings can take care of the Moon though. It then also has Da Sun, so we also Steel Wing that 2 times to take it out. He then does have a Gardevoir of his own, so we're going to be going into my Bronzong. I put it to sleep and then Calm Mind up, hit it with an extra sensory. Eventually I want to take it out with another one, but he swaps in Xatu, which I can also take down with 2 extra sensories, goes back into Gardevoir. 1 more extra sensory, 1 more win for us. Let's move on over to Koga with his poison types. Well, since we have steel types, we are immune to poison. He does probably have some coverage moves though, but we should be fine in the end. As my Skarmory can take down his first Pokemon Venomoth with Drill Pecks, and apparently this Venomoth is not even a poison type, it's part Psychic in this game. Toxicroak then also gets one-shotted by Drill Peck. I then also try to hit the Crobat with a Drill Peck, but before I do, I actually get hit with a Heat Wave and that leaves me with 15 HP and my Skarmory is scared to death. So after hitting that Drill Peck, I'm out of there. I swap in Pingu, who can take Brave Birds like it's nothing, and I counter back with a Blizzard to kill the Crobat. For Muk, I decide to go into Metagross and hit it with a Zen Headbutt, but it sets up a substitute and hits me with a Focus Punch first. After getting rid of the substitute, I can then take it out with another Zen Headbutt. Weezing then also dies to a Zen Headbutt, then the final Pokemon Tentacruel is able to hit a Waterfall, but the turn after I counter with a Zen Headbutt and take it down to take out Koga. This means that we have to move on to Bruno, the second fighting type trainer that we have to take on in this run, the first one being Chuck. So I'm expecting a similar team here. I lead off with Skarmory again because he's just my best bet against him. He then has a Hitmontop as his first Pokemon. I'm just going to Drill Peck it twice and take it out, as he then brings in the other one of the Hitmon brothers, Hitmonlee. I get high jump kicked, but I know I can even take 2 more, so I just start Drill Pecking away again. He eventually heals up, and then I can take him out with 2 more Drill Pecks, while I'm only left with 6 HP because he hit another high jump kick. He then brings in Thick Boy Hariyama, so I swap out into Metagross again and Zen Headbutt it once, and the big sumo wrestler is down. Hitmonchan is the last of the Hitmon brothers. He also has high jump kick for some reason, even though he's a Punchmon. We still take him out with Zen Headbutt though. We also take out Machamp with a Zen Headbutt, and then Lucario is his final Pokemon. I Zen Headbutt him once again, but I miss, and an Aura Sphere brings me down into red health. So I go into my Bronzong, set up a Calm Mind, put the Lucario to sleep, and eventually take it out with a couple more extra sensories. Let's go and take on the final Elite Four member, Karen. And she has Dark-type Pokemon in her arsenal, so we're going to be leading off with our Dark-type killer, Lucario. This was definitely a good choice of my lead because we can just kill Mightyena, her first Pokemon, with a close combat. She then brings in Houndoom, so I go into my Penguin and surf that thing. After it's washed away, we also wash away her Crow with a Surf because I managed to get a critical hit. And then for Absol, I decided to go into Metagross. I got hit with 2 Mega Horns, which did hurt quite a bit, but our Meteor Mash took him down from full health. We then also one-shot her next Pokemon, Spiritomb, with Meteor Mash, and her final Pokemon is an Umbreon, which we also kill with a single Meteor Mash. This now means that we're able to move on over to the champion, aka Lance the Dragon Master. And as we all know, he always starts off with a Gyarados, so I'll be leading with my Bronzong, because he's probably the only one, together with Skarmory, that can deal with Gyaradoses, or Gyarados. After my Bronzong puts the Gyarados to sleep, I immediately swap out into Lucario though, because I have to set up my sword stances. I managed to set up 2, and I then was able to hit a newly acquired move, Stone Edge, and just kill the Gyarados in one go. We then also managed to kill his Charizard with Stone Edge, and then his Garchomp with Close Combat. Dragonite also gets taken out by Stone Edge, and that's only one of his Dragonites. We take out his second and higher level one as well the turn after. His last Pokemon is going to be an Aerodactyl, so I go for another Close Combat while he sets up a Tailwind to take out his final Pokemon, and that is Lance defeated, which means that we have conquered Pokemon Storm Silver with only Steel types. I do have to mention that this was definitely not my first run, this was actually my 5th run of this game, because yeah, this challenge was not easy to complete. You needed a lot of luck to complete it. But after spending a lot of hours grinding and stuff and just learning the teams of the opponents, this was actually not too hard to complete. So I highly recommend checking out this game if you haven't done that already. And with all of that out of the way, let me know who you thought the MVP of the run was, and as always I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel. If you want to do so yourself, you can do so by clicking the links in the description. It is always appreciated but not needed. And as always people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm zwiggojr, and I'll see you guys next time.